So growing up, my friend's dad had this woodworking shop, and he was sort of this like very American, is Americana the word? Like traditional American guy. Kind of a cowboy type, I guess. So he had all these signs of like different cowboy actors and posters in his woodworking shop. And one of them that I always loved was this picture of a cowboy, and he was getting on the horse, and he said something along the lines of, "It's been a while, so forgive me, but if this is a famous quote, maybe correct me. Courage isn't getting on the horse and feeling like you're ready to go into battle, or like wanting to go into battle. Courage is being scared more than anything to go fight, but you get on the horse and do it anyways." And I genuinely loved that quote so much because I just true. I was reading Plato dialogue earlier where they were talking about courage, and it got me thinking about the sign again and kind of how like what is courage in the modern day? Because I feel like courage is, in a more traditional sense, how Plato is discussing it and how this sign is discussing it here of this cowboy, like, does it really exist anymore? How many times do we have in the world now where we're genuinely scared to go face something head on in this grand way? I'm sure we can all think of times in our own life where we have faced something, and that's cool, but like, would you call it courage? I think I've definitely faced things in my life where it's like, I don't want to go do this, but I do it anyways, but it doesn't feel that big. You know what I mean? And this could definitely be something with me, because I definitely do have a habit of like doing something and kind of being like that wasn't anything at all, That's definitely always been a thing for me. So maybe I'm just downplaying it too much, but I've never looked at that as courage, even though it abides by this definition on my friend's dad's woodworking shop wall, which is, of course, logic only dictates the definition of courage because I like it. But I think there's something where like all these things that used to be seen as big are now maybe dwarfed into smaller, Because the fact of the matter is, like, it was courage when I did something as simple as, like, I didn't want to go to this meeting or something for school, and I went anyways, even though I was scared. Like, that's courage, I guess, but is it? It doesn't feel like courage. I think maybe that's one of the reasons we've seen in recent years this whole, like, I don't want to call it a movement, but a bunch of guys just being like, oh, I yearn for the times where I could go to battle and like conquer, raise an army and conquer Macedonia. Like, I think there's so many guys acting like that now. And it's like, you could never do that. Like, let's just be honest with ourselves. Like, men used to go to war is great, but not us. Like, we were not the type going into war. Anybody alive right now, could not do what Julius Caesar did. Like, these are different times. You guys are genuinely different breeds of human. And on a similar note, like, if Julius Caesar had to scroll your Instagram Reels feed for 5 minutes, he would probably have, his brain would explode. So, we're in different times, and I think it's okay to acknowledge that. And this goes back to talk about what we were talking about yesterday of, it's okay to embrace where we're at right now and where things are going. But does that mean that things like courage, bravery, honor are taking these different shapes than they used to? Because I think it'd be almost anti-human or to be kind of super nihilistic to be like, no, courage doesn't exist anymore. Because it definitely does. We've all, whether you've done something giant as, rushing into a burning building to save kids or something, or as small as oh, I was scared to go on this date and I went anyways. Both those things are technically courage. Now, one is definitely, I would hate to say, but a larger act of courage. I think the burning building was pretty crazy. But do we want to say, I think the way I'm kind of looking at this is somebody in ancient times where courage was this very you're going and you're doing this giant thing, they would look at the date scenario and be like, no, this guy's a fucking idiot. That's not courage. Courage is going to battle and then dying and eating, fig trees or eating under a fig tree will you die, and like, you know, and the Romans are coming and you had to defend Sparta, or like something like that. You know, that's how people, they'd look at courage like that and be like, the date is, you know, fucking bullshit. Like, that's dumb. But do we say that this has made it so courage doesn't exist now, or is only for these bigger acts? Like, courage only exists when you have the opportunity to run into a burning building and save the children? Or do we say that courage is now just simply reserved for you know, people who are like policemen and firefighters? Mainly the firefighters. I mean, you know, I don't think some policemen, you know, like with the certain scenarios, but like even fires are less common. So do we say courage is just more rare? Do we want to make that statement? Or has the definition of courage changed to encompass, you know, everything? Because I think, me personally, I've always looked at courage from like, you know, the very action hero sense of like, you know, like Iron Man was courageous in that movie. I was not courageous when I did that thing that I was scared to do. Like, that's always how I've looked at it, right? Because I've kind of like, at least functionally, taken on this idea that like, oh no, courage is reserved for these very rare acts of like self-heroicism. Or just, why did I say self-heroicism? Just like heroicism in general. That's kind of always the functional stance I've taken. But is it worth saying, like, no, courage is everything. There's just like, it's just like kind of morphed now. Like, we can accept that like, no, you going on that date and being scared is courage. I don't think people would put it in the conversation of running into the burning building, as I'm saying here, but like, it's technically courage for sure. Just like, how much is the conversation now? So have we just changed the sort of rules, right? The rules of courage. Have we just changed those? Like, is everything still as it was? Just like we've almost expanded the definition, or are we just gonna like take on? And I think a lot of people would say this, which is again, kind of how I've treated my whole life. Just take on this idea that like, no, courage is rare now. You know, like we should all go yearn for those times where you'd raise an army to try and take Macedonia. Is that what he did? Is that what Alexander the Great did? Like, was it Macedonia that he took, or did he name it Macedonia after he took it? I don't really know. I think he's kind of boring, to be honest. I don't know. I just feel like, here's the thing about Alexander the Great, right? His dad raised all that money for, like, his dad's made his whole life mission, like, I'm going to raise money to buy an army so my son could be Alexander the Great. And you know what we call that? We call that a Nepo baby. Like, you didn't earn your own army. Listen, did it take some skill probably to do what he did? Maybe, I don't know. I wasn't there. Like, I'm not the guy to ask on that. Maybe it seems, honestly, you know, I'll say it, guys, it seems kind of fucking easy to take over countries back in like the year 1000. Like, with the frequency it was happening, it seems more like you just had to have the gumption to do it than anything. Because, and I know this is, like, if there's a historian watching this, they're definitely so mad right now. But, listen, how many stories have you heard about failed takeovers? I can't name any off the top of my head, and I know people were taking things over all the time. So it was probably really easy to be Alexander the Great. So maybe if we're just, like, adjusting for inflation, like that kind of thing, it's a proportionate amount of courage as it is to just, like, go on your date. So maybe the answer is not so much that we need to yearn for the times of old, where you would take over countries, but more so that it's just gotten harder to take over countries, and now you just need to go on more dates. Maybe that's actually the answer. Like, I think it's probably, like, Alexander the Great probably would have run from the burning building. So the guy running into the burning building to save the kids, more courage than Alexander the Great. The guy going on the date, same amount of courage as Alexander the Great. And the guy who, I didn't have another one, I haven't come up with another one, but they're lesser than Alexander the Great. And I don't know, I think, you know, I started here talking about courage, but the real message might be that Alexander is just a little bit overrated. Because, you know, like, Napoleon, didn't he start poor? So, like, that's kind of sick that he was, like, able to, you know, do all that stuff. I mean, not good, because, like, it's not, like, see, this is the thing, too, is, like, conquering, like, has never been good. Like, us being, like, courage doesn't exist in the same, like, on a serious note now, getting away from Alexander the Great and his, like, Nepo baby ways, is like, yes, I do think it's probably true that like courage doesn't exist in the sense that it once did. At least it's not quite as common, right? Like culturally that concept has gotten far away from us. But like that's a good thing. Like let's not act like that's a bad thing. Having to run into battle and like it being just in the popular, vernacular of like, oh, that was a courageous, heroic thing to do. That's like objectively a bad thing for the world. That is like, a popular thing. Like we are a far more advanced people for not having that type of courage be quite as popular. So yeah, the lesson, Alexander the Great didn't do shit. Anyways, the painting's done. This is the last of the spirals, so we're back to surprises tomorrow, since I completely spoiled these, and I still feel bad about that. But yeah, this is the red one. I actually think this one probably looks the nicest. I mean, it's so easy with red and white, though. Red and white always looks so cool, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. You guys know the drill. Go check over on the Instagram to see it next to the other two spirals, and that'll be cool. Is this a spiral? Is it a swirl? I don't know. That's a big debate that I think everyone needs to have. I don't think I think that might be a Paint&Talk in its own right. But anyways, I hope you guys learned a lot today about Alexander the Great. This was a lesson. I am a historian. And until next time, guys, gals, and pals, this has been Paint&Talk episode 57. My name is Max Dice, and until tomorrow, I'm here every morning painting and talking with you all. No, tomorrow, wait, why does oh no, and I just threw in an until tomorrow. Ignore the until tomorrow, that part's not, yeah.